here is board number 1. In Austria, we have Karthik Konath coming to us from California. In England, we have Dave Roberts from Snohomish, Washington. Hopefully I got that right. Snohomish, thank you. In France, we have Chris McKinney from Massachusetts. In Germany, we have Siobhan's favorite player of all time, Jason Mastbaum, playing from Los Angeles. In Italy, we have the aforementioned big gorilla on the board, John Anderson, showing off his high ranking of number 2 on the board. In Russia, we have Rafael Damata from Washington, D.C., a pit kisser playing in his first virtual face-to-face game that we have covered. And in Turkey, we have Ben Kellman coming to us from Philadelphia. So Marcus, we'll start with you. Anything jump out to you on this board that you want to keep an eye out for?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the big one is John Anderson there, ranked 2, quite high above everyone else. We'll see whether that comes back to bite him. That target on his back probably going in, but Italy is probably a good power to draw it with that, because you're not going to get anyone immediately ganging up on you unless Austria decides to suicide.
Which usually doesn't happen. Yeah, if you feel like you have a target on your back, Italy is the best place to be on the board. You can bide your time and wait until somebody needs you, and then hopefully the target will have melted by then. Siobhan, how about you? Does anything jump out to you other than the player in Germany?
John and Jason, big names. I've played with Jason for many years. John's been doing very well this year. Karthik, I've gotten to know fairly well over the last few streams that we've been doing. He's a great player. And some newer names that I'm not as familiar with. So I'm really interested to see. Rafael, I believe, is brand new to me. So,
yeah, Karthik is an accomplished web dev player, isn't he?
Yeah, I believe that's correct.
Yeah, Marcus, do you know anything about Karthik from the online world?
I know I've GM'd a game for him. I don't remember which username was his, so I don't really. But I'm fairly sure he's a strong player, yeah, especially considering rank 49 is pretty good on the overall standings.
Yeah, so we can talk about this some more at some other time, but there's this interesting conflict between the face-to-face world, which is used to using people's first names, and the online world, which is used to using anonymous handles. And so we just caught a little flavor of it with you knowing a player but not knowing a player. All right, let's cut the jibber jabber and get into some diplomacy action. So we have decided to try to shake things up a little bit, and we're going to try a slightly different format just for fun, and that is to have one player call out a phase and have the other player point out what they got wrong. And you guys, I heard before, were working out who was going to do which the first year. And so I believe, Marcus, you are going to be the test taker, and Siobhan will be the grader. All right. Spring of 1901. Here are the moves. And Marcus, you are on tap. Tell us what
Okay. Well, pretty normal openings around the board, aside from Galicia getting actually very unusual openings in some areas. Galicia getting demilitarized, obviously a good sign for that Austria-Russia relationship, could be a very bad sign for Turkey. At the same time, we have this bounce into Rolia, the German unit going down there. Not very standard. It's a move I like quite a lot. It gives a bit of influence in the south. It doesn't look like Italy was expecting it, especially considering Rome went up to Venice, and both of those moves got blocked. That could cause some tension between Austria and Italy, especially if that was meant to be an attack on the Austrian rather than just an arranged bounce. And the move into the English Channel is the other big one. Usually when you see this supported move into Burgundy, it's combined with a move to the Mid-Atlantic Ocean so that you can pick up Spain and Portugal. English Channel, very threatening to England at the same time as being quite threatening to Germany by forcing Burgundy. We'll have to see how that approach pays off for France. Might be too aggressive off the bat.
It's sometimes this sometimes gets called the French hedgehog. Although I think that technically people would want to see Marseille go to Piedmont for a true French hedgehog. All right, Siobhan, what did Marcus miss?
I think the big thing that got missed here was what I'm going to call the Brian Sheldon opening for Russia, which is opening to Finland instead of Gulf of Bothnia, which whether that was a misclick due to the interface, and Moscow followed up to move north. So I guess England has a lot of problems, but I don't know that anyone's super committed at this point.
I remember that time we called a couple of games where it was just 2 games in one night. I don't know if it was VDL or the Weasels games, where Sheldon opened to Finland, and then Matt Sundstrom as Russia in the other game also opened to Finland.
Yes.
And one of them was a misclick and one of them wasn't. Okay, let's move forward here. Fall of 1901. Here are the orders, and Marcus, we'll stick with you.
All right, well, I'll focus on the bit I missed last time then, and talk about this Finland opening. Usually you would see that go to Sweden, obviously. I don't particularly like opening to Finland myself, just because it's usually meant as an act of, okay, Germany, I trust you enough that you'll let me into Sweden, that I'll go up here instead of into Bothnia, and, show that trust. But it actually means that if Germany bounces you out of Sweden, you're in a terrible position and you can't follow up on that. So it kind of encourages Germany to bounce you out of Sweden. And I think that's kind of what we see here. We see the German going to Sweden, denying that to the Russian. We clearly see that the Russian either knew that the German was going to Sweden or suspected it and got into position to try and take it back. They're going to need the English player on side. We'll see how well that works out. Germany, I think, going all in on this England-Germany alliance by going for Sweden and annoying Russia, and by going for Burgundy at the same time and actually getting into Burgundy, which is huge, and irritating the French player. So England suddenly in a better diplomatic position. Lots of options here. And in the south, not a ton to talk about, except for that Sevastopol moving into Romania. The fleet going in there, still very pro-Austrian. And like, this is what we were saying, it's bad for Turkey when Galicia gets demilitarized, it's building trust. And this is just more building trust. There's no way that fleet is going to be used against the Austrian, because it just can't be.
All right, Siobhan, over to you.
The one thing I see that didn't get mentioned was the move from Venice to Piedmont. And combine that with Munich getting into Burgundy, it looks like Jason and John have figured out their issues from the Tyrolia bounce in spring, and they're just moving as far west and as fast as they can.
All right, Siobhan, talk to me a bit about France's opening here in the first year. It was pretty high risk, and from a positional standpoint, it looks pretty nice, right? You've got an army in Belgium, and you didn't have to give up English Channel in order to get Belgium here.
I don't love the move myself, and I wouldn't have done it, but I think that he got everything he needed to get. He gets his 2 builds. Portugal will always be there. He can pick that up next year. You've got your issues with Burgundy and Piedmont, but I think they're manageable.
And Marcus, how do you feel about the French opening here?
Yeah, I think maybe it annoyed too many people. You've managed to stay in English Channel, sure, but now England is kind of the only person you've got to potentially work with you. You're going to have to be backtracking on that really fast and hopefully pull English Channel back into the Mid-Atlantic Ocean, not building any fleets, trying to get that peace offer. Could have worked out really well if Germany had stuck with France. It would have been nice to pick up Belgium and have that position to potentially convoy into Wales next turn. But hasn't worked out at all.
Yeah, the builds will be particularly interesting here, I think. You've got England, who now could fully commit, right? If England builds Fleet Liverpool, this is the downside for that army actually getting into London from France's perspective. And then you've got Germany, who will pretty much almost certainly build a fleet here. You can probably justify it either way. So, and then the Russian. I'm curious to see assuming there's a build in Sevastopol here, what it is, or if they decide to go in St. Pete. Russia kind of has is opened up on 2 fronts now and is weak on both of them. So that that may not be so great. Okay, let's do the builds, and then I'll ask you guys who you would want to be. For builds, we see England foregoing Fleet Liverpool, seeing the potential danger of letting Germany get too well established. Builds fleet, or is worried more about the Russian. That's also a possibility. Builds fleet Edinburgh. In the south, we have Russia going for Fleet Sevastopol. It says, I want Black Sea no matter what. Which as limiting as this build is in the future, it's still kind of fun to see in 1902. Other than that, we have France putting down 2 armies, probably saying to England, my bad. Let's be friends. And nothing else is surprising here. Italy puts down a fleet in Naples, and Austria puts down 2 armies. Germany, for his sake, Jason puts down the fleet in Berlin to make it perfectly clear to England that he is not going to switch sides here. Okay, who would you want to be here? Siobhan, we'll start with you.
I don't hate the German position. I think he's got a good friend in Italy and doesn't really have an enemy at this point.
And Marcus, who would you want to be?
Austria, for sure, from my perspective. Got a friendly Russian who's just built a 2nd fleet in the south. The Italians heading off towards France. Germany, nothing on Austria's border, and Turkey's about to get squashed. It's fantastic Austrian starting position.
Interesting. Is there, from your perspective, if you were Austria, would you be worried at all about not having enough Italian help to crack open Turkey? Or do you think, given Russia with guaranteed Black Sea here, you've got enough firepower to do it?
I think Black Sea is probably enough. You've got that 1 fleet in Greece that you can potentially use to help crack open from the south. That's probably going to make it, as long as Italy doesn't pull Piedmont back to Tyrolia and try and help in some way.
Yeah, there's a lot of interesting tactics that have to be worked out for Austria in order to make this work, right? Yeah, involving bringing the army headed towards Greece, that sort of thing. So it'll be interesting to see how well Austria and Russia can coordinate here. All right, let's move forward here. Do you guys want to? Why don't we switch sides now for 1902? All right, so Siobhan Nolan, you are up as a primary analyst for spring of 1902. Tell us what you see.
Okay, first things that jump out to me in the West, there's a lot of movement from the English player who covered Wales, even though there was no convoy from the French. Lots of bouncing. Marseille goes to Gascony, that makes sense, but does let the Italians sneak into Marseille. The Italians committing full west, does send 1 fleet to the Ionian to help out, I'm going to guess to help out the Austrian, but we'll see. We get a move into Tyrolia, which is always fun, and Germany loses Sweden, which is expected at this point.
All right, Marcus, what should she have mentioned?
All right, I mean, that English move into Heligoland Bight is huge. Like allying with the Russian here, it's going to cause serious problems for Germany, especially with France now having English help. Not a huge amount else I see that was missed. Not a huge amount I see that was missed. The Aegean Sea bounce. That's always the downside of having just the 1 fleet there, right? It's going to take a while longer to crack open Turkey, especially since Russia went for the non-guaranteed option of trying to support Sevastopol out.
Yeah, that's just a tactical mistake, right? Is it, or is there any other way to read that?
I mean, I suppose if I was going to say maybe Bulgaria would have tried to support Black Sea into Romania, but in that case, you should have had Budapest support Holder Romania, and still, you could have tried to push. You should have had something cut Bulgaria, I guess. But it looks like the Austrian actually suspected the Russian would do different moves than this, given that support from Ukraine to Romania. Lack of coordination there.
Yeah, Serbia to Bulgaria, Greece to the Aegean, you still do that. I think Trieste should be going to Albania here. These are just suboptimal tactics. You actually don't need to support Romania. Budapest should still support Ukraine as long as you're tapping both Black and Bulgaria here. Okay, well, it's interesting, right? So now you have big victory for Turkey in spring of 1902. It may not last, but if you're Turkey, the more you can slow down this cabal of people attacking you, the more you increase your chances of finding a way out of the mess. Yeah. All right. One last thing. What about Italy getting into Marseille here? How big of a deal is this?
Yeah, that's a big deal. It's France saying, I guess I can only defend against one of you. I'm going to defend against Germany for the time being. And I mean, Italy can be kicked out, but it's a guess because of that fleet in Tunis, not in Tunis, moving to Western Mediterranean. I guess they could cut Western Med, but it's still very gassy over there.
Yeah.
And a strong Italian position, especially given the army in Tyrolia. That's a very flexible unit.
Yeah, real quick, the army holding in Vienna is interesting. If Austria and Italy were working in perfect concert here, they could have done something more efficient with that. But that suggests that Austria wasn't 100% certain that Italy was gonna hang out. Okay, let's keep moving here. And fall of 1900 moves. Got a lot of black arrows. Tell us all about it, Siobhan.
Ooh, a lot of stuff moving in the west. France takes Marseille back, but loses Belgium in the effort. Oh, Germany has so many problems. I take back liking that position. England takes Denmark with the help of the Russian. The Russian fleet is dropping down. Jason has a lot of issues. Meanwhile, we get a lot of black arrows in the east, too. So Austria has flipped and has decided that the suboptimal moves of last season weren't working with the Turk.
Yeah, that's a big turnabout,
huge.
isn't there?
Yeah.
Marcus, what should Siobhan have spent more time on?
Yeah, I mean, that seems to pretty much cover it. I suppose the Italian moves on the French front ended up being bad guesses, getting knocked out of Marseille here. Particularly interesting retreating into Burgundy instead of retreating into Piedmont. That leaves the Italian able to attack Munich if they want to and completely pivot directions. We'll see whether they take advantage of that. The bounce in Venice is also probably arranged, all things considered.
Yeah, but Ionian holds, right? So, if Austria and Italy were working again in concert with each other here, I get the bounce. That way you don't have to trust each other, but there's just a lot more that that Italy could have done here.
Well, I mean, we're seeing Austria now working with Turkey, so I'm not sure what Italy would have done with Ionian. Holding seems to be a decent choice if you're just fine with Austria-Turkey working together.
Siobhan,
I would have loved to have seen an unwanted support, because if Austria and Turkey are working together and they're self-bouncing in the Aegean to keep each other honest, and Italy just says, no, let me just toss a little wrench into this, that would have been my preference.
Siobhan, what do you think about Austria's turnabout here? Do you like it?
I think it makes sense, and I think that there must have been a breakdown in communication between Austria and Russia last turn, and Karthik and Austria has decided that the suboptimal tactics, and they weren't going to get anywhere fast enough, and said, no, I want to move. And the Turk was on board.
Yeah, it's an interesting dilemma, isn't it, for a player? If you feel like that your alliance partner simply isn't strong enough tactically, or won't follow through with things that are good ideas, it's one thing to follow through if you have a good reason for not doing it. It's another thing if you don't. And so a good player will often turn on an ally just because they don't seem like they'll be reliable enough.
Yep.
All right. So builds here. We've got France pulling Picardy. So France, it is worth pointing out that France passed up Portugal here. Guessed right against Italy, but also passed up Portugal here. You'd think Italy and France might have been able to work something out where Italy gets Marseille for 1 year.
Oh, we missed something, by the way. Germany's in the North Sea.
Oh yeah, retreats to the North Sea. Excellent.
Useful.
Excellent. And why? Oh, Germany didn't have to pull because they took Belgium. Got it. And all right, Turkey puts down Fleet Constantinople. Excellent. All right, let's keep going here, and we'll stick with we'll reverse back. So Marcus, this one's going to be on you to call it out. Tell us what you see.
Okay. Very interesting moves in the south. Obviously, Russia, having built those two fleets, is pretty committed against Turkey. Can't really do anything against Austria, so has just continued to attack Turkey and hope the Austrian will work with them. And it's worked perfectly. Austria gets into Romania, gets into Bulgaria. Russia gets into Armenia whilst keeping the Black Sea. I'm not sure what Turkey was thinking, self-bouncing in Aegean and not making any attempt for black. Maybe didn't trust the Austrian, but if you didn't trust the Austrian, support whole Bulgaria at least. Italy going for Munich. This is something we see. The weakened German Italy's just trying to take advantage of that and take something on the other side of the line. But suddenly we see a really strong French position because Western Med has pulled out. There's nothing in Burgundy anymore. Germany is now working with the French player, and France is in the English Channel. And England forces North Sea. North Sea retreats to Yorkshire, which is an interesting choice. Can't really do much from there, but could potentially work with that French fleet in the English Channel. And yeah, no deviation from this England-Russia alliance in the north.
All right, Siobhan, what's the one thing you want to talk about?
I think that Mark has pretty much covered everything. Jason retreating to Yorkshire is both fun and so Jason. Yeah, the Austrian is in a fantastic position along with the French player, and I think it's a race to see who has the best position in the next few years.
All right, I have one thing you guys missed, that
Nope.
Ukraine now has an unimpeded access to Warsaw.
Oh,
That's
yes.
true.
So this, I don't think this worked out quite perfectly for the Russian. It may work out okay in the long run, but I mean, Austria will be way too powerful by then.
I know.
Yeah, worked out for the Austrian for sure.
It definitely did. Yeah, even better because of that. So this so far is kind of a game of entertaining retreats. Yeah, we've seen a few of them now, and you know, the Marseille to Burgundy last time, north to Yorkshire, which really does nothing other than tie up the North Fleet Army having to cover Edinburgh if they want to. Yeah, now we have Romania to Yorkshire. So all right, let's push ahead, see how this works out. And Marcus, you're on tap. Lots of action here.
We finally see that Ionian Sea Fleet moving. Clearly, Italy and Austria solidifying their relations, starting to move hard towards the Turk. Poor old Turkey, still being attacked by Russia, manages to pick up Warsaw, but I don't think it's going to be enough to save them, especially with 3 fleets in their homeland. That's not really an ideal defense.
And Russia doesn't. I'm sorry. I'll keep it.
No, go ahead.
Russia doesn't get the tap from Bulgaria to Khan that they needed to guarantee the build. I mean, that's just brutal.
Austria just double support holding Romania. I think they saw that maybe it's not in Russia's interest to keep pummeling Turkey while Austria makes all the gains, and didn't trust that Russia would stick with them. But Russia did stick with them, went for Ankara. Elsewhere, we see Italy finally backing out of Tyrolia over there. Germany seems to have agreed to leave Munich alone, especially considering they were working with the French players. So they could have asked for some kind of support there. Wouldn't have been guaranteed to work, but they could have had a chance at it. France decides to flip on Germany, attacking Belgium here, not getting anywhere with it. That may have been a mistake. Germany just poking at Edinburgh. That's not going to do very much, but pins down English units for a while. And most importantly, perhaps loses Kiel, tries to defend as best they can, but that Italian unit in Munich seems to be trying to support the English player, which is an interesting decision because England's quite strong up there already.
All right, Siobhan, what do you see?
The only other thing I see is that France does finally take Portugal. I do have a little bit of behind the scenes that we saw earlier. I do believe that John Anderson was replaced in spring this year by Nick Amtangelo.
Oh, indeed.
So as we see the Italian tactics changing a little bit this year, I think that might have something to do with it.
Interesting. And Italy does get a build. All right. So we actually quite a lot of build action here. France is getting a build. Italy is getting a build. Austria is getting 2. Will Austria do what we all want Austria to do? I am going to project onto you guys and put down a little triangle in Trieste. Probably not. It's probably
Trieste.
Can either of you make an argument for why that's a good idea?
I mean, if you've got the Russian on side, the Turk can't do much against you because they're completely on the defensive, and obviously the Italian is committed in 2 different directions away from Austria. But I think the winter phase is not the right phase to signal that you're going to stab.
Yeah, that's the problem, isn't it? Italy can see it coming too far away. Siobhan, any good argument for Austria?
I mean, aside from the fact that I always love a build Fleet Trieste, I don't think this is the moment. You don't stab in a build phase, and I don't think you could justify it to Italy.
All right. Let's see what happens here. We've got. We do have two armies. We have a fleet in Rome, which doesn't do much other than tell everyone that it's heading west. Germany pulls the fleet, sees the writing on the wall. Still has three supply centers, but one of them is not contiguous with with their units. So, and Turkey, no surprise. Turkey didn't have to pull a unit here. They must have had one piffed.
Picked up Warsaw.
Yeah, but they lost two, Romania and Bulgaria. They must have had one piffed here.
I think Bulgaria.
Bulgaria got piffed.
Yep.
All right, and Russia says sayonara to that fleet in the south that did not actually produce any more units. And the other build of note here is that France puts down an army here rather than another fleet. Could have made an argument for fleet Brest here, couldn't you?
You see the England always obviously wants the north to be clear of fleets. They're doing really well at that right now. 2 fleets total in the north, English Channel and Baltic. And English Channel really needs to be pulled down south if they're going to hold out against this Italian.
Yeah, all right. So real quick here, so Marcus, we'll start with you. You liked the Austrian position before. Was that your top choice here?
Yeah, I mean, I still like the Austrian. I like the English player as well. I think England's about to stab Russia potentially, and about to stab Russia hard, because I don't think, given what I've seen in the south from the Russian player, I think they're likely to try and stick with their allies. And if they try and stick with England here, they're going to end up with a knife in the back, most likely. So yeah, English position is good. Austrian position is very good.
All right, and Siobhan, I assume you're ready to let the choice of the German position go?
Yeah, Jason Mastbaum is on his own. I will regret supporting you for the rest of my life. No, Marcus is 100% correct. The Austrian is definitely in the strongest position here, but I do love the English position.
All right, let's see if one of them or the other can get the upper hand. Well, it seems to me Austria has the upper hand now. The question is, can they hold on to it? All right, spring of 1904, so we're switching sides again. Siobhan, we're back to you.
Let's start with the English player, which I'm gonna guess was an issue with getting orders in on time.
Let's ask. Let's see, Brian Pravel, can you find out some intel for us on that?
Yeah, that would be great. So in the meantime, the Russian player convoys over to Berlin. Yes, it was an issue with getting orders in on time. That's really unfortunate, because there was a lot of interesting play to be had by the English player. Meanwhile, the French, as Marcus predicted, pull the English Channel back to Mao, lose Marseille, which was inevitable, but the Italian loses Munich in that effort, and the Austrian moves everywhere. Takes Venice, moves to Tyrolia, takes Constantinople. Just Karthik sees that he's got the lead and doesn't want to give anyone else a chance to catch him on it.
This is brutal in the best diplomacy sense of the world, isn't it?
I really like it.
All right, let's so Marcus, before we go take a deeper dive into what Austria has just done, is there anything else that you would want to talk more about first?
Yeah, I mean, not a ton. Germany getting back that French support into Munich might actually help out the Italian, because it's put the Italian unit adjacent to the Austrian centers now. England, I'm actually surprised this was an NMR. Well, mostly an NMR anyway. I would be like, this is actually a move set I could see as reasonable if they were looking to stab Russia in the fall turn and say, oh, I didn't get my orders in on time, I'm suddenly adjacent to St. Petersburg and Sweden, and you've got them both open, but it's definitely not to stab you. I would not be surprised to see both those centers go to the English player on the next turn.
It was an NMR.
Yeah.
All right. No moves revealed rather than received. Okay, no motives revealed. There we go. That's even better. Okay, let's keep going here. Fall of 1904, and Siobhan, we'll stay with you.
And as predicted, St. Petersburg is wide open for the taking, and the English player takes it, walks into Sweden, takes Berlin back from the Russian. So the German still loses Berlin, but it is English. So that's 3 dots for the English player.
Loses Kiel.
Loses Kiel in the effort. Thank you. Okay.
So.
Meanwhile, a failed attempt to convoy over the North Sea because London simply held.
May have been on purpose, right?
May have been on purpose, absolutely. The Austrian just continues marching, winds up with Venice, Rome, and Constantinople this season. That's just brutal. And the French are just pulling everything down south and against the Italian.
All right, Marcus, what do you see?
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to figure out what move Baltic supported there. Was it Kiel into Berlin? Did they try and support
Think
the
so.
their own unit out of Berlin? I mean, obviously they can't force their own unit to retreat.
Supported Kiel to hold.
Okay, right. That makes
That's
a lot more sense.
It's either a misclick or just a really bad read.
Yeah. I mean, I don't understand the Italian moves here. I think you needed to cover Rome. I understand it's painful to put a fleet back in there if they did move to like Apulia or something similar. But like, this is just, ow. And Eastern Mediterranean to Aegean, you could have used that to cover Ionian. I think the Italian thought they had the Turk on side maybe, and they were getting support up to Aegean, maybe blowing up that unit. Clearly the Turk has chosen to try and throw in their lot with the Austrian and hope the Austrian will move away from them, which seems like a good plan because it means they haven't got any enemy fleets next to them anymore.
All right, let's look at some builds here, and then we'll do a strategic overview of the situation here. So Austria is putting down 3. I think the odds of us seeing a fleet in Trieste are pretty high now. Let's verify that. Indeed. Interestingly, Karthik opts to put down 2 armies rather than hold the build for another fleet, which you often see players do sometimes. In the England, so this is actually
only had 1 space open.
That was something that that should have gotten some mention. Gets 2 builds, but only has 1 open here. And so maybe I see. So the error here was probably that the convoy was not was for Edinburgh to Norway, supposed to be, rather than for London and Holland. And this is something with the backstabber interface. It doesn't tell you. There's no graphical indication of where the convoy is going, unlike what we have here. It just shows a little squiggly line. So it's actually quite easy to make this sort of mistake. You know, maybe he initially had an attack on Germany going here, but then decided to change it and just forgot that one order. That is a big deal, especially for a player who is now trying to race someone on the opposite side of the board here. France puts down the fleet, now fully committing to the southern strategy. Okay, let's talk about this stab. This has been a dramatic 2 years here for Austria that has seen them fully cement their position at the top of the board. Whether they can keep it there or not is another question. What does Austria need to do to secure the board top at the end of the game? Siobhan, let's start with you.
I mean, I think they're well on their way to doing it already. It's just a matter of making sure that the entire board doesn't unite against you at this point. He's gained, 5 centers in the last 2 years? And the English player, while still in good position, is just enough behind both on center count and units on the board. Austria has the position, and if everybody doesn't decide to pile on him, I think he's good.
Yeah, England had a real problem here, it seems to me, which is that the places they need the dots to come from was Russia, and Russia is their sort of best chance to fight Austria from the north. And even worse now, the armies are not in position to help fight Austria. The units that are forward now are all fleets. So fighting Austria directly is just going to take a long time, maybe too long, especially with carnage scoring. Marcus, do you see anything else, any other possibility here for this board?
Yeah, no, I think Austria's in a really solid position to top the board. I think England has a similarly strong position in that England has a completely vacant North Seas, well, all of the northern seas. You've only got that 1 French fleet in Brest. The problem is France is still strong. France is going to be sharing that northern half of the board with you. And on the other side, you've got Austria and Turkey sharing the board. Turkey is very, very weak. And Austria could very easily take out Turkey. Now you've got Smyrna unable to be supported. And I think Austria, maybe to secure the victory, needs to take that opportunity now and kill Turkey before Turkey turns on them.
So if you were Austria here, you would fight Turkey rather than try to hold Italy and France back from the west?
It's a difficult one, but I think Italy and France don't have the units right now to push you back, whereas Turkey will have the units to attack you if you turn around, and Turkey will probably take that shot.
Yeah, it's interesting and then in Germany has a similar. There's a similar sort of dynamic with Germany in that England needs German armies to fight Austria now, but Germany is probably not going to be too interested in moving units away. Probably more interested in retaking Berlin here. Looked like this when we left it. Lots of disbands. This is the one where Austria, where Karthik, Konath in Austria had made some spectacular moves and gone from 5 to 10 centers between the end of 1902 and the end of 1904. And if we want to remember any of this, there was an AI that Austria had decided was no longer needed, and we also had some Russia, Turkey. This is the one where this is the game of the retreats, right? The entertaining retreats. Okay, great. And I believe in this one, Siobhan, you were calling out the odd years. Was that right?
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. Why not? It all evens out in the end, anyway. Do you guys want to try to shift a little gears here? I think I thought maybe we could try to do a little bit of sort of reorganize things a little bit. If Siobhan, maybe so whoever goes first can sort of focus more on the tactical aspects of the turn, and then the second person can try to focus on the strategic changes. Should we try that?
Sure.
All right, Siobhan, then tell us about the tactical situation in the spring of 1905. Once again, see a lot of black, which is nice.
A lot of black arrows. I'm going to start with the Austrians since they are arguably in the strongest position on this board. You get yourself bouncing Tuscany to keep the Italian out. That worked out in their favor. Shifting some fleets around to get them into play, and moving up into Russia with Turkey's help. So the Turk is helping the Austrian. Meanwhile, in the West, the English player finally managed to convoy something over, moving the fleets out. I mean, it's all just moving the units where they need to be. I think everyone but Turkey is going to try and stop the Austrian, but we'll see how long that lasts.
All right, Marcus, how does the strategic situation look?
Yeah, I mean, on the negotiation front, it looks like Austria's done a very good job keeping Turkey on side, and more importantly, making Turkey move out of Ankara, move out of Smyrna, while they still have that unit in Constantinople. And that looks like a very deliberate misorder to me, Constantinople.
Whoops.
It will be interesting to see if that causes the Turk to pull both those units back. It would definitely cause me to do that. But yeah, very strong negotiation turn from the Austrian, especially Tyrrhenian Sea to Tunis covering against the French player instead of attempting to protect Naples or, attempting to protect Ionian.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like the Italian is a little bit dead in the water here. But it looks like the Austrians managed to convince them to at least stop the Frenchmen from growing. The other interesting thing on the negotiation front looks like the German has kicked the English player out of Berlin, kind of to be expected. But I assume England will try to continue attacking the German. France not making a move against them, though.
Yeah, this is a nice this is a nice set of tactics by Karthik. I think he's obviously played the game well diplomatically, but this is a nice set of moves here. The self bounce, we often don't like these. We see them as wastes of unit efficiency, but he really wanted to make sure that this army didn't advance into Tuscany and didn't have anything else particularly pressing to do with these two units. And getting into Ionian has to be an unexpected bonus. But now, I mean, it's hard to see anybody challenging Karthik for this board top. All right, let's push ahead here then and check out some fall 1905 moves. And we did. Sorry, my eye was just immediately drawn to this.
I'm going to start with Karthik again. Some confusion as to the movement of the fleets in a fall turn, why we're not taking Naples. I guess you have to keep France out of the Tyrrhenian Sea, but it just seems a lot of unnecessary red arrows. We do see the Turk pull back to Ankh and Smyrna, as Marcus was predicting. And the Austrian just pulls away, says, hey, my bad, I don't want any of those. Meanwhile, the German kicks France out of Burgundy while England takes Kiel from him, which is an interesting choice that I would like explained to me at some point. I get it on the part of the English player, but the German,
Yeah.
okay.
All right, Marcus, what does this signify about the strategic situation?
I mean, the fleet-wise, it looks like Austria is trying to puppet the Italian. Obviously, carnage scoring system. The Italian is just trying to stay alive as long as possible. Maybe hope that someone else gets eliminated, probably Germany, before they do. I don't think it's going to work because there's nothing more the Italian can help the Austrian with here. Sure, Austria can support hold them in Tunis, but now it's a guessing game between whether they defend Tyrrhenian Sea or Tunisia. It's not one they can win, I think. Elsewhere, yeah, I think England actually has the potential to beat Austria on this board top, considering Austria doesn't have a huge amount more centers they can take, and England is advancing in Germany now.
Mm-hmm.
And France, it doesn't really have a line against England. England has a nice position for stabbing if they want to.
All right, so my curiosity here is whether Austria builds a fleet or not, another fleet. Yeah, so Austria got a build supported by Turkey into Moscow here, and yeah, what's going on between the English and the Germans is interesting to say the least. All right, so builds finds Germany giving up on that Burgundian army, which at least knocked France. Maybe part of that was to give France a rebuild, to convert an army to a fleet. If that was the goal, it helped England a whole lot more than to Germany. So thanks for that. So France does put down that fleet Marseille. England puts down a fleet and an army, and this is now just kind of the race on. And we do get an Austrian fleet here. Just kind of the race is on between England and Austria. Can England find enough dots before Austria takes the Turkish dots? And all right, spring of 1906. Tell us about the tactics, Marcus.
Okay, so we see the Austrian moving up to Romania and into Bulgaria and rotating that fleet down. I don't know if they're going to get the position to attack Turkey here. It seems doubtful. Elsewhere, we've got this kind of, it's starting to, well, they do actually guess correctly, the Austrian and the Italian, on which place to block. But now that Marseille is in Gulf of Lyon, not a lot they can do to hold. They're going to lose one of the two. And they moved Adriatic to Ionian, which they should have probably moved it to Apulia and tried to just push it forward without going through Ionian here. Elsewhere, England advancing, not managing to get backfill into Kiel or get that army convoyed across. That's going to delay them a bit, but they do take Berlin. France moving forward with everything, and England getting into the English Channel, Mid-Atlantic Ocean. They're already and North Sea next to Belgium. This looks like it could be a very easy English board top if they just take the French centers.
You agree, Siobhan?
I 100% agree. This is exactly the race for the board top that we were talking about last year. And this is such a fun place to be, as England. And I mean, the Austrian is keeping the Italian alive because they're helping them, I guess. But I can't see that lasting too much longer. The Austrian's going to need Naples if they're going to hold on to this board top. And we'll see what he does with the Turkish centers in the long run.
I just want to point out that Zach Moore, DBN's own Zach Moore, has pointed out that Siobhan, the bingo card space where Siobhan doesn't like Jason Mastbaum's play, has been called. All right, let's keep going ahead here, and that is it. That is actually how the game ends, right here. And so I assume there's going to be some comments about whether England should have taken this draw. Before we get to those, let's call out the final score here. Austria, Karthik Konath in Austria takes 11, the board top. In second place is Dave Roberts in England with 9. And after that, we have Chris McKinney in France, Ben Kellman in Turkey. And then in the distant fifth place tie. We have Jason Mastbaum and John Anderson, who was replaced by Nick Amantangelo, I believe. Although I'm not sure if any of them, either of them, will get the score for that. And then Rafael Damata in Russia still gets 1,000 points for playing. Thanks, Rafael. All right. So congratulations to Karthik Konath. It's hard to say he didn't deserve this. The question, I think, is whether Dave Roberts in England should have been okay with second place. And Siobhan, let's start with you.
I mean, if I'm England in this situation, I don't think I'm taking this draw. I'm going to point out that Karthik in the comments is pointing out that he kind of forgot how Carnage scoring works, and he forgot that dot count can be a tiebreaker for board tops, which is why he didn't take the Italian dots, apparently, as he forgot that those, couple of extra dots could be a tiebreaker later. But no, if I'm England, I'm playing for the board top. It feels like he didn't want to stab France for whatever reason, and that's a little disappointing to me, but
it's worth pointing out to Karthik, by the way, taking Naples, as soon as the Italian army in Piedmont became unnecessary, you should take Naples. Even if he's working with you can replace that army. You can get another build and put all of the units in your possession. Marcus, what should have happened here if you were England?
Yeah, I think actually something important that I missed on the last phase was the Austrian taking Munich. It does change things up a bit, because if France gets stabbed by England here, Austria has a lot more to gain. And also, I think I underestimated the Austrians' ability to stab the Turk. Obviously, they can't take the Turkish home centers, but Sevastopol seems likely to be theirs, and Warsaw seems likely to be theirs if they try for it. The fact that those two English units in Russia are both fleets would work out in the Austrians' favor. So I think as England, I still play on, because you don't have a lot to lose. You're not going to lose the second position. Maybe the only bad thing would be a solo, and I think the Turkish holding their homeland is reason enough to continue, but I don't think it's I don't think it's the worst thing that England drew, because I don't think they'd get it. The only other person I think who has reason to hold out is Italy here, because they held out one more phase. They get 500 more points because Germany gets eliminated. But at the same time, I can understand that it's been a long time of playing, and the two center power saying, no, I want 500 more points, I'm going to keep you all playing this game for another year, can be seen as a bit of a nasty move.
I mean, but it's at the benefit of limiting Jason Mastbaum, which I think everyone on the board could agree is a good thing.
It would be interesting if there were a top board, whether a consideration like that would feel more attractive, more appealing. So 500 points is let's see, worth about like 1.5%. So on a 100-point scale, that'd be about 1.5 points. You do see, in 100-point based systems, you do see people sometimes making decisions based on that small number of points, but not typically. All right. Well, so, we've talked about England here. Well, let's talk a little bit about Karthik. Played a pretty solid game. Really hard to argue with much of what he did. How do you guys feel about his play here? And Marcus, we'll start with you this time.
Yeah, absolutely beautiful stab, I think, on the Italian. That was what resulted in this. It was great from the gate, honestly. I think I can't remember, but I think he demilitarized Galicia with the Russian in 01. He managed to get the Italian solidly onside, went against the Turk, then stabbed the Russian and the Turk, took a bunch of centers, and managed to get the Turk back onside. Diplomatic victory, tactical victory, just beautiful play.
Siobhan?
I mean, start to finish, I love the Austrian play in this game. It was superb. There are small moments where I was just like, okay, why aren't we taking Naples at this point? But, if that's my only complaint, well done, well-deserved board top. Love it.
Yeah, for me, this is the strongest play we've seen so far tonight. And there's been some this morning, rather. There's been Nicolas' play in the previous game was also strong, and I think this is a little bit higher, not much, but a little bit higher, and deservedly so. Congratulations to Karthik.